Guys, I know I said I'd post a video a week. I lied. Um, just a lot going on. Uh, Tax season never ended, and the tax laws are insane. Not that any of you care, but I'm working on furthering my career and doing some coursework there and actually getting some certifications. So bear with me on the not being around much. So I kind of wanted to talk today a little bit about plateauing and burnout. Burnout is a term a lot of traditionalists use and are familiar with for when you burn out. You do too much too quick, and you just get to this point where you're like, I don't want to quit forever, but I want to go take a long nap. So I don't know if I mentioned in last video or not. I am official. We have a coven, Raven Tree, here in Central Florida. Yay! Super excited. We've had our first, I don't know if you heard the cat yelling. I said yay, and he went meow. We had our first initiation, so I'm really super excited about that. So everything's live, everything's go. We're training people. We have an outer court, and yeah, I'm really excited about it. And so there's been a lot going on, and I'm tired. That's the burnout half of it. And I think the big thing there is self-care, realizing that you can't pour from an empty cup, realizing that your craft needs you, and that it's okay to take a break once in a while. It has been recently pointed out to me that I am very goal-oriented. I like to have an end game, and I'm reaching the point in my career where it is what I make it. And where some people might see that as like a power trip or an ego trip or a, yeah, I run this shit. I'm a little terrified. Mortified, terrified, flabbergasted, all the above. So it's become more of an organic living organism that I just kind of have to steer in certain directions at this point, which is exciting. It's alarming, and I'm terrified, but it's all been very good so far. So I've taken a little bit of time out as best I can in between working on my boring day job certifications, taking a lot of naps, personal care. I've had some medical things pop up lately. I'm not dead or dying, but some significant, I'm going to have to take some time out for my physical health as well. I did get the COVID vaccine, not to get political. It did make me a little bit sick. I was down and out for about a week there. So, a lot going on. Thank you for putting up with it, and if you've come back, thank you for watching loyally at this point. So, plateauing. So I think many of us do, and I think we should, at various points in our study or training as pagans. Obviously I speak specifically from a British traditional Wiccan background, but I think it applies to a lot of us. I think we have these points where we ask ourselves, why am I doing this? And I don't mean that in the sense of I don't want to do this anymore, as much of a fundamental, why am I here? And I think one thing that I've taken away, that I've noticed, that I think is true for some other people I've talked to, is that reason changes. And I think it should, and I think that's not necessarily a bad thing. But I think at key points, when I went from being a pagan to committing to the outer court training of a traditional coven, I said, okay, well, they asked me, why are you here? What are you doing? What do you want? And I said, well, this is my reason. Okay, cool. So then I trained in the outer court, and then immediately prior to initiation, again, it's, why are you here? What are you doing this for? What do you want? And, well, this is still my reason. It's a pretty strong reason. Okay, cool. So then at first degree in a traditional coven, you just become a member. A lot of it's oath-bound, so you can't be fully aware of what you're getting into, although you should have a pretty good idea. A lot of it is really unknown to you at that point. Well, then going into second degree, you've learned most of what you didn't know before as far as what's oath-bound. And when you go into second degree, your priorities change. You become an elder, at least in gardenery and craft, and you then have to commit to focus on other people. Commit to start doing community work meant to start, and I think that was the first point where I really did a full hard stop. And for those of you who aren't familiar, a full stop is when you're doing something and you just stop. You drop everything, you let it land where it lands, and you kind of center back to zero. You don't throw stuff out, but you center back to zero and you go, okay, what do I have? What do I need? And why? And, I resorted everything. Went back through my entire career, went back through journals, and I would say in a sense I had a crisis of faith, but not in the typical sense. In the sense that I think the craft, and I think any theological, philosophical, religious, spiritual path, as you learn and you change as a person, your understanding of what something is changes. It's the thing itself changes for you. You change. And that's a good thing, and that's why I say I think these experiences are good. So when I say crisis of faith, I don't mean I just didn't believe anymore. I mean that I had to redefine everything. Everything that I thought was one thing was muchier than what I had originally thought, and I realized the depth at that point of what I get into. And at least in my experience, as you continue on, you hit those forks in the road every so often. And I've had another one, and kind of just examining, why do I do what I do, but what does it all mean? Becoming a 3rd degree high priestess, the training's over in terms of there is no structured, you're going to A, and then B, and then C, and then D, all the way through the end of it all. There is no more textbook, as it were. The learning, however, has just started. I've basically got the basics. And, I have all these guidelines for how to do what I do, but I just now have the entire occult or pagan world within my scope to read and look at and go, okay, does this inform my decisions? Does this? But also now thinking about a coven and students as well. So people think of traditions as being these static things that, well, if you're a Gardnerian, you have to always do the same ritual over and over again. Technically, I can't talk about intercourt Gardnerian rituals. It's not that static. It's more like we have lines in the road. So you can't go too far this way, you can't go too far this way. Everything in here is still Gardnerian. And every, individual... for one thing, we have private practice, meaning that I can practice however I want in my personal time. And that's true before, after, and during initiation as well. What you do as a pagan on your own time, unless we find out you're, drowning puppies or something, not really our business. If you're doing something heinous we need to be aware of for, humanitarian reasons, that's a whole nother kettle of fish. But magically, you can pretty much do whatever you want on your own, and learning from a coven definitely builds that, I think, personal practice. Not that you're going to get into a coven just wanting to work on your own, because you have to be a team player and work with the coven as well, but I now have to look at how I personally want to practice, how I want to train my students, where in between these lines I want my coven to be, still kind of learning where I want my coven to be. I had a wonderful teacher. She's amazing. We're two different people. I don't have any major issue with anything she taught me, and I learned a lot, and I do use that training to kind of guide me, but I'm my own person. So, in this place, she could be over here, and I could totally be over here, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there are differences in practice. There are differences in how we do things. And now I guess kind of realizing, I don't have kids, but I imagine it's similar to parenting, where it's like, oh shit, I have people to take care of now. So I think I've kind of been a little overwhelmed. And Wire's in the corner coughing, don't mind him. Do you want to say hi?
Trying not to.
Say hello.
Hello.
Hi. Yeah, because I'm not reshooting this, forget it. But, realizing, oh shit, I have people to take care of now. Realizing that, holy crap, I'm a 3rd degree, not only an elder, but a Gardnerian high priestess. I have a coven, I'm known of, I've been announced, as it were, so I'm not only a card-carrying high priestess and witch, I'm also now a card-carrying, coven, too, or leader of a coven. So it's kind of realizing, holy crap. But personally, on a personal level, I actually am turning 30 in 2 or 3 months. And I'm a little intimidated because at work, my career has gone way further than I thought it would. And I'm nearly where my goal to be, like, period ever with my job is. I honestly, this certification I'm getting was pretty much the end of my goals. I'm not saying I won't get new goals, but I'm not even 30, and I pretty much have, or will have very soon, everything I think I've worked for. So it's a little daunting because I come to this point, and this is where I get to the plateau, is figuring out where I want to go from here. Definitely starting small. Definitely starting small. It's the cat in the background. Building slowly, which is good. I want to build a nice, strong, solid foundation in my coven, in my group, in my practice. Anwire and I are getting married, hopefully in a couple months as well. And we're planning all kinds of neat stuff. So the coven I have is Raven Tree. We are talking about buying a house and actually registering the land as Raven's Grove Pagan Temple, and it's something we're very excited about, and I hope I'll have news about, along the way to share with you guys, because I do feel in the wider pagan community, we need to help each other more than we do. When I became a 3rd degree high priestess, I sat down and I had some talks with myself and with my gods, and I think I realized that I definitely want to be a Gardnerian high priestess and run a Gardnerian coven. However, I think I need to do more for the pagan community as well. I read something recently about the pagan community. So apparently, anthropologically, it takes 3 to 4 generations to establish an actual bona fide culture. So we can argue about whether pagans had a culture before or not, but the fact of the matter is that the current pagan culture is very new. It's not something the world has seen ever and or for a long time, depending on how you want to debate that. But in that 3rd and 4th generation, I think we're 2.5 to 3 generations in right now. One more generation, and we will begin to have the workings of a solid culture, a solid community, a solid grouping of people, and we're at a very critical time where a little bit longer and nothing's really going to be able to stop us. So I think I really sat down and I decided kind of who I wanted to be and where I wanted to be on that front. And it's not that I want to be famous or full of myself, but I think, at least in my local area, there are a lot of eclectic pagans, that is, pagans who teach themselves, learn from various sources, and primarily work alone, and I have no problem with that. And I'm not looking to necessarily even change that, but a lot of these people have nowhere to go. If they needed, for example, things a church might provide, or a temple, or a synagogue, or a mosque might provide, they don't have that. I think I've mentioned before, I actually had a major lawsuit a few years back. I was discriminated against for being pagan. I can't really say much more than that. But I later found out that had I been attached to an actual legal, quote, church, my court case would have gone a lot easier. I could have literally been a card-carrying pagan, and therefore proving discrimination would have been as easy as me reaching in my wallet and pulling the card out. So one of the things I hope to provide, Anwire and I hope to provide once we get this temple up and running, is services like that. I am now legally able to perform weddings. I can sit in on funeral services. It's been explained to me, and I have materials if there was a need for AA type, substance abuse recovery type clinics. I have the ability to do those now, but all that's a lot easier when you have a physical place to do them. So we are planning on getting married and buying a house, hopefully a year from now, the house bit, the marriage hopefully can be a little sooner than that, but um, because I think as a community it's important that we have these things. I think that it's really important that we build towards kind of centralized hubs for pagans. I'm not going to expect anybody that comes to be Gardnerian, but I do want the other pagans to be able to come and kind of have a central location and to have some of the services that so many other religions in the United States enjoy. You know, it's very difficult to claim rights when you don't have certain things. So we're definitely working on that. And on that note, I think I've been stagnated because I ran out of kind of textbook material to work on, and now it's very open-ended. I need to decide exactly where I want to go, but I think part of it also is kind of like the first time as a little kid, your parents just let you use the internet. When you can Google anything in the world, sometimes you just don't know what to Google. So I'm kind of at that point of I can do anything, so what am I going to do? So I think that it's important to realize that when we come to these points, these plateaus, these stagnations, that we just need to kind of come back to center, and we need to do a full stop, and we need to think about, you know, who am I, where am I, when is it, what do I need? In my case, what do I think the community might need? What do I hope to provide? And it's a little different for everybody, and obviously everybody's not in my position, but I just want people to know, through any spiritual journey, any growing process, it's normal occasionally to feel like you've face planted into a brick wall, and it's normal to feel like you don't know what to do next. And I had somebody recently remind me that this is normal for myself, and I really should know these things, but it's good to be reminded. So this is my reminder for everybody else. You know, I don't care if you're eclectic, I don't care if you're traditional, I don't care what you do. Take advantage of that moment. You know, listen to yourself, listen to your body, listen to your mental well-being, and stop and just go, okay, why do I do what I do? And don't be afraid of that. You know, if you find that you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, there's your opportunity to find a reason. If you find that you don't have a reason, or that you don't like the reason you do have, that it leads you away from where you are, that's not necessarily a bad thing. You know, you don't want to spend the rest of your life going in a direction you don't want. You know, maybe you need something more, something less, something different, and I just want people not to be afraid to embrace the suck as far as that goes, in terms of, you know, finding yourself out, finding your religion or your spirituality out. I think that if it can't stand up to scrutiny, if it can't be that something deeper that you might be looking for, then you probably don't need to be there. You know, I say all the time, my religion is not the end-all be-all. I don't believe that everybody should be Gardnerian. I don't think that everybody needs, wants to, or should be allowed to, frankly. And I don't say that in an exclusionary term, but in that it doesn't work for everybody. You know, I do it because it works for me. The students that I have, it works for them and it helps make them better. If somebody were to come in and be forced to do it and it made them miserable, if they don't leave, I'd kick them out, because I don't want to make people miserable. And I think that if we find that our path currently makes us miserable, or it's not making us happy, we need to explore the idea that maybe it shouldn't be our path anymore. And you know, anything that you do. So I think in this time, I just want to embrace the open-ended opportunity. I want to embrace the changes in my life, and I want to encourage everybody else to do so too. So see you next time, hopefully next week. Bye.